This is 1993, number 44. They want the minimum value. Now, minimums occur at critical points or endpoints. So what does this graph look like? This requires you to know what ln of x looks like. And hopefully, after all your quizzes and me doing this a million times, you know that's the graph of ln of x. So the domain of ln of x is from 0 to infinity, not including 0, and not including infinity, because infinity is not a number. So what does this mean? This graph has no endpoints. This graph has no endpoints. So if it has a minimum value, it has to occur at a critical point. And how do we figure that out? That's what we're here for. Okay, so f of x, I want the derivative, f prime of x. I have a product rule because I'm multiplying two things. I leave the first alone, and I multiply by the derivative of the second. Then I take the derivative of the first and leave the second alone. And now I have a derivative that is 1 plus ln of x. So here is my question. Does that ever equal 0? Well, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. Ln of x equals -1. How do I get rid of the ln? I must e both sides to get rid of ln. Those are inverse functions, making x e to the -1, which is 1 over e. There is my critical point. Now, how do I know if that's an absolute minimum? I have a theorem that says if we have one relative extrema, then it must be an absolute extrema if it's continuous. So that's what I want to do. If that's a relative minimum, then it is my absolute minimum. So let's check this out. 1 over e. Now, recall 0 is my left endpoint. So I can't go past 0. So I'm going to do something weird here. 1 over e, I'm going to do 1 over e squared for a smaller value. Why, you will see. I'm going to do 1 over here. Now, e is about 2.7, so this is like roughly 1/3-ish. But I think you'll see why I chose those values. So let's plug in 1. What's ln of 1? 0, so it's positive, right? Okay. 1 over e squared. What's ln of 1 over e squared? Well, a little side note, that is e to the -2 power, right? So what's ln of e to the -2 power? The ln and e cancel, giving me -2. 1 minus 2 is negative, so this is going to be negative. That's why I picked this, because I knew it became that, and when we ln that, we just got -2. That's why I picked that. All right, look at what this tells us. This function from 0 to 1 over e is decreasing. And after 1 over e, it's always increasing. Now, I don't know if that's a shape, but definitely that's a relative minimum. Therefore, it's an absolute minimum because it's the only relative extrema. So we know the minimum occurs at 1 over e, but that's not the question. It's asking the minimum value. They want f at 1 over e. I plug in 1 over e into this function, which I get 1 over e ln. I rewrite this to the -1 power. That becomes -1, so it's -1 over e. Bammo. See, there is the answer.